Global arms firms are making a killing. General Khandare, India just cleared its first proposal for 100% FDI in defense with Saab to make rocket launchers in India. Is India also part of this making hay while the sun shines?
No, not really. See, we have to look at the complete policy of the nation.
Right.
You know, we are not the ones who supply weapons where others get killed, you know.
Right.
We have our own policies where we will not do anything to escalate a war anywhere.
Right.
The other countries, I don't want to comment on that,
Yeah.
but what you said is they are really making a killing.
Yeah.
And they are happy, maybe, possibly, that okay, they can sell weapons, they can test weapons. You know,
Right.
real life combat is where the latest technology gets tested.
Of course, and this is what we've heard increasingly in Russia and Ukraine, and the newest generation of weapon systems are being tested there. In fact, the MEA made a statement to that effect.
See, that's how it is. A person who's designing something can test it on a simulator, but
Right.
What better than testing it live and away from your own country?
Right.
I think that's exactly what the bigger companies would do. But in our case, we don't do that. We look at how we can defend our sovereignty.
Yes.
And for that, whatever is essential, we want that to be made in India as much as possible. It's not humanly possible, at least, to start running the moment you're born.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have to first sit up, then you have to start walking, and you have to start running. Yes, the delay between this should not be so significant that the others have sped away.
Right. But this point you made, sir, there's a certain element of morality in weapons sales. Now, the arms business is a dirty business. I remember speaking with George Fernandez, the then defense minister during the Kargil war, and he mentioned that, you know, there was this case of countries that were coming and supplying weapons to both sides of the border, both India and Pakistan. And these were countries that we thought were our friends. I'm not quite clear which country he meant, but he meant to suggest that he would not expect that country to go and, you know, supply to, say, the adversary. How does morality come into the play when you're looking at the arms business, which doesn't really have much scruples, that you actually are profiting from death and destruction, and how does this sit in with the goals of the defense ministry of
See,
India?
we've seen these are national goals, you know, these are not restricted to a ministry. Like, I can tell you that nearly 79% of the defense production assets are owned by the state in our country.
Yes.
21% is with the private sector.
It's among the largest in the world, I would say.
Yes,
state-owned assets.
So what can the country do? It can definitely control this 79% to abide by the national policy,
Right.
and expect that 21% also to abide by that,
Right.
so that they don't land up in a problem. So we have a system known as the end user certificate.
Yes.
So whoever is supplying, we don't want the same practice to happen what you said,
Right.
is supplying to team A and supplying to team B,
Yeah.
and then watch the fun.
Right.
So many places we have been given directives that only non-kinetic
Right.
protection systems have to be given. Say,
Right.
for example, as innocent as a bulletproof jacket.
Yes.
So if we can save lives with a bulletproof jacket, we could supply to anyone. That's not a problem.
Right.
But we definitely do not go by this premise that make hay while the sun shines.
Right.
We have not been doing it. We have been quite ethical.
You've been more principled in your
Absolutely.
in who you sell arms to. But would that
Absolutely.
come? I'm just looking at these graphics that we're running behind here, which basically projects the size of the defense industry from over the last couple of years and looking forward at 2025. Do you think that the kind of principles that you're talking of, the ethics that you will not sell weapons to inflate, instigate conflicts, will that come in the way of these very ambitious growth targets that you've set for yourself?
We have plenty of scope to first fill up our hollowness.
Right.
You
Within
heard,
the Indian military.
Yes,
Yeah.
you heard of people talking of some equipment which is already obsolete, some
Right.
equipment which is current,
Right.
and some equipment which is futuristic.
Yes.
And you've seen the figures. The futuristic is in a single digit.
Right.
The current is less than that, and the
Right.
obsolete is more than that.
Right.
Even when we start replacing this obsolescence, we don't have to look elsewhere. You know,
Right.
we have to first address our own problems. While, yes, an economist may say this is not pragmatic,
Yeah.
but we are saying, okay, you've got to achieve a 35,000 crore export target.
Right.
You already reached 16,000 crore worth of target in terms of defense exports.
Right.
Then you heard the Honorable Raksha Mantri giving out during the Not-Tech that within a few months he is going to announce that we've reached 20,000. So this is the kind of speed at which we are moving.
Right.
Where were we with just about 600 crores worth of exports, and where are we now, where we are supplying to over 85 countries?
Right.
So while we are filling up our own hollowness to cover the technological differential with our identified adversaries, at the same time we are earning dollars for our forex.
Right.
So we are contributing to the economy largely.
When the Modi government took over in 2014, they came out with a policy of Make in India in defense, and that lasted for about 5 or 6 years. And then in 2020, you came out with a new policy for Atmanirbhar Bharat, which was, I think, more focused. It had more clearly defined objectives, and the fact that you were going to ban imports in a lot of categories. How are you going to accelerate Atmanirbhar Bharat, which I think is the government's stated goal, the projections that you've made for the next couple of years? How are you going to accelerate it? How are you going to take it forward?
It's at multiple levels, and there are multiple partners. The services are the stakeholders, they are the users. They are simplifying processes so that delays do not take place. The ministry by itself is again one of the stakeholders where the processes have to be speeded up. The processes of trials, the process of reevaluating, all that has been to a large extent simplified.
Right.
The bringing in of innovation, there is a difference between innovation and indigenization.
Right.
But if innovation can encourage indigenization, it definitely helps. You look at the various landmarks that have been achieved. You created something known as the IDEX.
Right.
Then you've roped in a large number of startups there. Then you've created an ecosystem for the DPSUs and for the bigger private sector players, where these same startups can join them and contribute to what otherwise they were dependent on someone abroad.
So it's a very large ecosystem-based approach that you're just mentioning.
Yes, it is as complex.
Energize defense ecosystem.
You can either look at components and then integrating them into subsystems and systems,
and then finding platforms.
Then bring a platform. So look at say for example Navy, they did Swavalamban, a project in which 75 challenges were announced last year in June by the Honorable Prime Minister. They've gone well past that 75.
Yes.
So setting targets, at times we were told that we were being too ambitious, but that wasn't so.
Right.
And now even the space segment, we have 75 challenges open. So that is happening. And most important is the stakeholders, the users have identified what can be bought within India, what can be made within India. So those positively identified items, that is the identified list, over 500 such items, what you called as a ban for importing, that has happened already.
Right. In fact, my colleague Deepak Badana spoke with Air Marshal Anil Chopra, DG of the Center for Air Power Studies, to understand what India has been doing and what India has been learning from the wars in Ukraine and in Israel. Let's listen in.
We joined up with Russia during Soviet Union time in 1950s. The Americans wanted us to join their group, but we chose to remain non-aligned. And at one point, 85% of Indian armed forces equipment was of Soviet origin. Even today, nearly 60% of our equipment is of Russian origin in all the three services, whether it's the Vikramaditya aircraft carrier, whether it's the MiG-29, the Su-30s, the T-90, T-72 tanks, and large number of other munitions that we buy, they are of Russian origin. And we know that never-ending war. Today is 616th day of Russia-Ukraine war. And we do not know when it's going to finish, and therefore there's been serious issues of supplies from Russia. And one reason why these supplies have also got into complications is because the Americans put sanctions and we could not do dollar trade, and we had to do rupee trade. And in rupee, we also bought large quantities of oil last year. So how much rupee can the Russians accept from us is an issue, and therefore there are delays in supplies, there are delays in spares. also a lot of effort of the Russian industry has gone towards their own requirements, and therefore things have slowed down. In fact, we are not being able to finish our capital budgets this year. So this is the complications Russians. Nearly 10% of Indian Air Force today is of Israeli origin. That's a very significant figure. Israelis are friends. They don't ask no questions. They give you supply, you defense equipment. They are into a large number of things like UAVs. They are into our radars, electronic warfare, aerostats. They have made the AEWC radar, and they are into missiles. They are into everything that we do in large percentage. And therefore, it has become incumbent that India becomes Atmanirbhar. We are already the 5th largest economy. Very soon we will be the 3rd largest economy, and it is time, if we want to sit on the global high table, that we must start making our own defense equipment. Atmanirbharta is most important in defense because the costing of defense equipment is very complex, unlike what happens for medicines, food, etc., which where the normal market forces take effect. Now, I am very happy to say that India has taken some great initiatives. First is that 75% of India's defense budget this year is to buy only Indian. 75% has to be spent here, the capital budget, which is a very big thing. Then 4 positive indigenization lists have been released by the government, covers more than 4,000 items that have to be bought in India. Third, the DRDO and the PSUs, defense PSUs, have been asked to find private partners and transfer technologies to these private players. The private partners have come hugely into a large number of equipments. They are making world-class, they're making aerostructures for aircraft of the foreign companies. We are making wings for the F-16. We are making, fuselage for C-130. We are making the tailplane and the wings and the middle section of the LCAs made by private players in India. So there is a large push that's been given. They have also instituted a defense indigenization fund. The government has, so that we are encouraging. And in drones and UAVs, there are more than 100 startups in the country. So I think the indigenization push is good if we really want to sit on the high table, become a significant global power. Then indigenization is very important. Yeah.
News 9 Plus. Download now.